Okay, so I wanted to go over, I've been making these little preforms to make hunting style points out of. They're typically about an inch wide, maybe an inch and a half long, maybe a little shorter. I try to keep them all about relatively the same size. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over how to make those, and then I'm going to show y'all how I prefer to notch it. If you want to see some of the ones I've already notched, I made a short earlier about that. Please go check that out if you haven't seen it already. And if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. So what you want to do is you want to pick up, you know, a flake that has some thickness to it. So this has some good thickness to it. It's a little bit larger than what I want to start with. Normally I can probably make a pretty good large sized arrowhead out of this. Typically what I'm looking for is something, this one may be a tiny bit small for what we're looking for, but it has some nice color. Be a cool one to make one out of, or something about this size would be also nice. I don't like working obsidian, so we're not working that. We may try this one, but I think this is a good spot to start. And the reason I say that is because we're gonna lose a bunch of this edge that's super thin anyway, to setting up platforms, and just it's so thin right there that you really can't run a flake across it. I can't. You might be able to, but I can't. And we're gonna bring it in till it's a little thicker. Typically I want, you know, at least an 1/8 inch thick, possibly a little thicker, so I can run a flake. If you're dealing with a flake that's thinner than that, you're probably not gonna be able to do anything. So like this right here is good and thick, at least for what I'm trying to do. And now you see, now that we've got it down to a kind of got that edge toughened up to where we can run a flake across it, we're dealing with a lot smaller platform here. Now you're probably thinking, well dang, that's a lot bigger than what he just showed. Yeah, it is, but we'll see where it ends up. A lot of times these small flakes like this have a tendency to break and to snap in weird ways that you typically wouldn't expect. I'm also picky. I want my flake scars on any point I make to go all the way across. I don't want any flat spots, and by flat spots I mean like areas where you can see where the old flake was, like where it was taken off. I want it to look bifacial. There's nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just have a personal preference. I want it to look like, I don't know, I want my flake scars to go all the way across. I'll just leave it at that. There's nothing wrong with them not going across. See, that's why we leave it big right there. You want to start with as big of a piece as you can, because we're still going to thin this out, and you know, we could break the tip off of it or whatever, and at least this way we don't have to start over, because this is already finished point thickness. We're just trying to shape it and get our flakes to run all the way across. And like I said, that's an unnecessary step. And then of course I'm gonna pressure flake it down even further. So see, again, because we left it large, we still have enough here to work with. And I don't recommend taking your time with this. I recommend running through them, especially if you're like me and you have an abundance of flakes. Run through them. If you break one, you break it. Just run through it, do what you can, and move on. So it happened to break in a very fortunate way. I'm not going to say that's going to happen every time, but this one did it, so we're just going to work with it and keep going. Again, you don't want to waste a bunch of time on these. They're little points. You can spend, and anybody will tell you this, you can spend just as much time on one this size as you can on one that's 10 inches long. Arguably, sometimes more. Depends on what kind of day you're having. And I just guesstimate on sizes. I kind of know about what I'm looking for in terms of, you know, about what I'm looking for in terms of size, and I just kind of eyeball it. If they're not exactly perfect, I don't care. There's not going to be enough distance for what I'm shooting or enough grain weight variation to really matter. I know a lot of people who shoot compound bows may think that's crazy, because if you change out a 125 for a whatever, it's going to be a lot different. You know, if you went from a 125 to a 150, it's going to be a lot different. Well, at 10 to 12 yards, which is what I'm typically hunting, it doesn't make a lick. It doesn't matter. I don't even spine my arrows. I don't weigh them. I don't spine them. I shoot them all, put points on them after I shoot them all. If one shoots like crap, I just throw it away. Sometimes there's stuff you can do, maybe change a point to a bigger point or a different point or whatever, but most of the time, if it shoots like crap at 10 or 12 yards, it's always going to shoot like crap. But you start to get a feel for, like, oh, this flexibility of this cane and this diameter and this, that, and the other, this works best for this, whatever. It's kind of trial and error with a lot of it. Ryan Gill on Hunt Primitive, he has a lot of controversial takes on some of it, but he's right. You don't need to spine your arrows. I remember when he first made that video, people were all up in arms about it. Like, you can't say that. Well, he's right. You don't. It's not. Unless they're crazy over spined or you're just an excellent shot, does not make a difference at all. Most people can't shoot good enough with a primitive bow to tell the difference between spine at 10 or 12 yards. Unless it's just astronomically bad. I have a spine tester. It's hanging up on the wall right there. And I bet you, if I spined my arrows on it, they'd be anywhere from 50 on one side, turn the arrow, it'd be 100 on that side, and whatever. You can spine them. Sure, it doesn't hurt, but again, like I said, at short distances, it doesn't make a difference. I just know the limits of what I can shoot. I would never, not with a primitive bow, I'd never take a shot over 20 yards probably. I know that doesn't seem like that far, but most of the places I'm hunting in the swamp and stuff, you can't see over 20 yards anyway. Did I go on a rant? Hey, you know what? So far so good. We haven't dropped the point in this video. We broke it 3 times, I think. But maybe I might have anticipated that a little. Just judging by the size of the flake that I originally selected versus what I was trying to make. When you're working with flakes like that, it's par for the course, guys. It's just gonna happen. They're gonna break. So just pick something. One, you can pick something and try to make a nice point out of it. I mean, but really when you're making these little expedient points like this, I wouldn't I wouldn't worry about it. If I broke it, I just broke it. I'd grab another one right there out of the pile and go on about my day. They really don't. Unless you're a guy that is utilizing all your lithics for whatever, they don't matter. The little flakes down there. So I can tell you right now, I haven't even compared it yet. This one's going to be a little shorter than these other ones, but it's not bad. So what we'll do now is we'll come back and take the smaller pressure flaker and sharpen up the edges, get the symmetry just right on it, and we'll make another one real quick just because we can, because it's only been 10 minutes, and that's how quick you can make them. You can literally make one of these in 10 minutes. It doesn't take a half hour, you know. Notching it takes a little bit. Notching it takes as long as it takes to do the whole point, at least for me. But just to get down to a preform, you can sit out here and make, shoot, I sat out here the other day and made like 10 in a couple hours just playing around. You could sit out here in an afternoon and make a sack full of them, and then you can either, most people notch them. I notch mine, but you don't even have to notch these. There's a Mississippi, I think it's Mississippi. Is it Mississippi? Madison, not Mississippi. I don't know why I was thinking Mississippi. Madison triangle point. And you can just make a straight up triangle. Glue it right in the end. No notches, no nothing. If you're using modern glue or epoxy even, that's what I do. Just glue it in. Wouldn't cinny wrap it or nothing. If you're only going to shoot it once, yep, that's what I do. But I'd use hot melt glue so you could pop it back out when you were done. When you break it off. Because if you don't wrap it, it'll split the end of the arrow when it hits something. So maybe wrap the arrow but not the point, maybe. I don't know, I never used them. I've always put notches on mine. Really for no other reason but aesthetics, because like I said, especially with modern glues and epoxies, you don't need them. You really don't need them with pine pitch. It's just there for added security. Okay, perfect. Little triangle, ready to go. All you gotta do is come in and notch it. Let's do another one real quick, because that one's a little small. Still plenty for an arrow point. See how it matches up with our other ones. They're all fairly close in size. It's about the same size as that black one. It's a little smaller. If you set the black one over it, it covers it. So let's just grab another piece of rock here and make another one. Maybe we'll see how many we can knock out and say, I'll give myself 35 minutes. We'll see how many we can knock out. Then we'll notch one. I may get tired of making them and just say, oh, I'll just notch it. Y'all may not want to watch 35 minutes of me making little itty bitty points. And there's no telling how many more I'll break. I'm going to just knock a blade off of this. So this will make a perfect one right here. And sometimes if you're doing what I'm doing, it may be easier to just take a flake off of something like that and not try to dig through your pile and try to figure out what works and what doesn't. One problem with that is they usually end up being a touch thicker, but you can typically work through them no problem. And I'm not going to say every one I make takes me 10 minutes, because that one may have taken me 10 minutes, but I notched one earlier, and I'm doing kind of, I'll show y'all at the end here, but I'm doing kind of fancy corner notches on them just because I want to, and they're mine to hunt with. I'm not doing anything else with these, but they're mine. They're literally going to leave the napping shed and go right on an arrow and go in the quiver. So I've been kind of playing around with some fancy notches just to kind of spice up the look of them when I show them to people or whatever. And shoot, I notched one earlier. It took me longer to notch it than it took me to make the whole entire point. So you can spend as long or as short as you want on them. I think if I try to make as many of these as I can make in a video, it'll bore y'all to death. So I think we'll do one more, and I'll try to match my size a little closer with this one if I don't break it. And then we'll notch it on camera. And like I said, I'm not rushing through these by any means, but I'm just moving right along with them. And there's no reason you can't do the same thing. It's also good practice just setting up platforms, because these, it really matters. If you make a mistake early on, you're not gonna have enough material here to get it out, if that makes sense. So you're not dealing with enough thickness to really do anything about it. If you get a big hinge or something, you're just gonna have to kind of go through the flow with it. And I'm not saying you should rush on your hunting implements, but I'm pretty confident that I can make just as deadly of a point in 10 or 15 minutes as I can in 30. One will just be a little prettier. Pretty is not really what I'm going for here. Effective is, because I usually end up making, you know, 10 or 15 of these in a sitting, and I don't cull them, you know what I mean? I just shoot them at whatever I want to shoot them at. I treat them like a field point. If I want to shoot a rabbit, I shoot it. If I want to shoot a fish, whatever, I just shoot it. I don't shoot fish with them, but you know what I mean. I don't worry about, oh, well, that's a stone point. I don't care. I care more about getting my arrow shaft back than I do the point, I can tell you. Care way more about the arrow shaft and the hours I've got in fletching it. There we go, we broke it in half. Let's move on. How long did that take? Oh man, wasted all y'all's time. So you could, if you wanted to, turn that into one. I don't want to. I'm just gonna grab another piece and move on. We kind of pushed that a little too thin. It happens. Not that piece. Not thick enough. See how it's got the bulge and the dip in it? I hope I'm not boring y'all. Like, this piece is a little big. This would make a nice other type of arrowhead or something. Try to save, you know, try to make it make sense. This piece ain't bad. Y'all are probably wondering why I lost so much width right there early on. Because it wasn't thick enough to run a flake across. So you got to get rid of all those first. Oops, I hit my camera mount. Just trying to make sure y'all could still see. See, what I'm doing is I'm trying to remove as many of the big fat problem areas right off the bat. I do like a little thicker of a preform like this to start out with. It just makes life so much easier. Then I'm not entirely too worried about it the entire time. So selecting the right piece to start off with matters a lot. I'd say this would be an excellent exercise for beginners, you know, because what it teaches you is, first of all, it teaches you how to work thin pieces without snapping them in half. It's still the same as bifacing a large point. You're still doing the same steps, but you're not taking the risk of destroying a massive piece of material. Like if I hadn't picked this up and tried to make a point out of it, it would have just ended up in the scrap pile at some point, one way or another. You know, so unless I utilize it, it's basically garbage. So as a beginner, if you're trying to maximize your material, or if you just can't afford a lot of material, check with, well, if you can go to a nap-in where everybody's sitting around napping, and just ask politely, hey, this pile of flakes over here, does anybody want those? And most guys, they don't want them, but ask. Because if somebody's sitting over there napping agatized coral or something, they probably want them. But I used to buy, when I first started napping, I used to buy people's like debutage pile. I used to ask Curtis Smith, I used to message him and be like, hey, can I buy your flake pile? He'd send me a whole ass box full. Oh no, I just said a cuss word on camera. I think this is the first time I've done that. I'm not cutting it out. My bad. So as you can see, you can run through a stack of these pretty quick. And like I said, it teaches good thinning technique. Teaches good setting up platforms without that was a mistake. That one shot all the way across to the other side. A little overshot there. I don't think it hurt us too bad, but it came real close to tearing that point up. I'll have to run some short choppy flakes across here to kind of thin that edge out. Now I need to be careful with it being disproportional like that. I probably need to be careful with how I strike it, because it'll break right there. I made it real thin right there. I think from this point on we can pop on over to the pressure flaker. Now this is where you'll soak up a lot of time. The thinner you can get it with that indirect before you pick up the pressure flaker, the better. I would go further, except I did that, and if I keep beating on it, it will be in 2 pieces if we can get through the pressure flaking process without it being in 2 pieces. Definitely have to watch ourselves around that area. I was hitting it hard, trying to run stuff all the way across. I hit it a touch too hard. Yeah, we cleaned that up pretty good. Quite a little bit right there. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get uniform edges and a decent cross section where we can kind of get some of these pressure flakes to run a little better. I'm push all my edges up to one side now. Kind of got it looking a little bit better. I like to kind of abrade the shape as much as possible when I can. Just helps. You can just kind of rough it into shape with the abrader and then come back and pressure flake everything smooth. Really like that method. It's kind of the Jack Crafty continuous platform method. I really prefer that to setting up individual platforms. If I'm not ever trying to do sequential flaking. I'm just not. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my forte. I don't try to replicate artifacts or anything, so there's really, in my mind, there's not a lot of, I just haven't made it to the point where I really want to learn it yet. And I think it'd be something that I just wouldn't enjoy doing. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to the smaller pressure flaker. Because if you keep going with the big one right now where you're at, you're just gonna, there's a nice little hole in there. That's kind of cool. If you keep going with the big one when you're at this stage, you're gonna put too much pressure on it. All this little pressure flaker is this piece of 1/8 inch welding wire, TIG wire to be exact, just regular mild steel. For those of you who know, 70 series rod, so it's not crazy hard. One more pass on this side and we'll stop, and we'll just go ahead and notch it, and hopefully I can do a good job for y'all. This one also took around 10 minutes. Around, I should say. I think it was, I broke that other one around the 17-minute mark. I'm going to leave that in the video. I hope y'all don't care. I try not to leave me breaking anything in the video, but this style of video is kind of like a continuous run. It's not like I'm sitting here trying to make something, you know, large, and I break it in half and I'm like, oh, okay, now we're 45 minutes in, I'm gonna start over. Y'all, we're still, this is kind of more of an educational video than it is an entertainment video. I don't know, maybe it wasn't educational at all and you're like, what is he talking about? I just hope I stayed on film the whole time, you know, to be honest with you. It's a good thing I don't do this for a living. Alright, let's compare. Nice. Right in there with the other ones. About the exact same size as that. We'll lose a little bit more when I get into pressure flaking, or when I get into notching and everything, but it's right in there with the other ones. These three are the closest. These two are the closest. By the time I pressure flake the tip in and clean it up just a touch more, they'll all be right in there together. So we're gonna finish this one on video. I'm gonna sharpen my pressure flaker real quick. We'll finish this one on video, and that's kind of, I'm gonna do this the exact same way I've been doing the other ones as far as how I've been notching. I'm also going to just sharpen this up, kind of flatten it out a little bit. It's kind of pretty round right now, and I need it to be, hopefully that's coming in, and it's not really wanting to focus, but that's a pretty fine tip. What I'm fixing to do needs some pretty good control here. So this is not how I would recommend you notch it, but it's how I've been doing the ones I've been doing, and I like it, and it's one of my favorite styles of notching. And I don't even think it's an artifact notch. I think it's just something I kind of saw somewhere, or maybe I was trying to do something that was I saw on an artifact and screwed it up, and I don't know. This is what I'm going to call it, though. I'm going to call it like a corner notch scowl horn, but it's a little bit different. We're running up in that hole right there. Kind of messed me up a little bit, but we'll get through it. We're running up in and at an angle towards the front. Alright, that's a little bit wider than I typically like them, but we're going to carry that over to the other side and do the same thing. The trick with this is to not blow that corner off. Kind of try to keep that angle the same, like distance from base. This is really actually kind of a stupid way to do this. And I'll tell you why. This is a risky notching style for what's supposed to be an expedited point. So you spend all this time expediting your napping to get here, and then you break it. You're kind of defeating the purpose. So maybe don't do this. Not bad. It doesn't look exactly like my other ones do, but we'll make it look like that. So, last little bit of refining pressure. The reason I save this last little bit of pressure for after I notch, hear me out, is because you can use it to refine your symmetry. I really blew the notches on this one really wide. The ones that I showed in that short weren't as blown out as this, which y'all don't hold it against me. I don't know. Sometimes it just happens that way. They can't all be perfect. It's not really about what the notches look like either. It's really about how sharp this dude is. And nice pointy tip that'll penetrate well. I want to get that last little bit right there on the tip, but man, that's a sketchy little spot. I'm going to leave it. I think that's in my best interest. And then what I'm going to come back and do is concave this base a little. I like that myself. It sits in the notch on the arrow shaft a little bit better. Kind of makes a little more ornate looking point too. Just trying to match up that last little touch of symmetry there. Yeah, not bad. One reason I do this also is because they have to be an inch wide, right? But it's still an inch wide, but really this is your cutting area, you know, just this little bit is real wide, and it also reduces the weight a ton to do that. So if you're trying to get a really light point, you can still have it be the minimum requirements to hunt with, but shaped in a way so that it's not an inch wide and then your notches start. Your total point is an inch wide. I think here they have to be 7/8, but I'm just gonna say an inch. It may be an inch, it may be 7/8. I don't know. If I'm being honest. It's never one of those things I've had anybody stop me and say, hey, what size point are you hunting with? They're just usually happy you have a license around here. I don't want to push the issue though. I really don't. Try to abide by the rules as much as possible. Alright, I don't love that one. How much time have we spent on this? 39 minutes. Alright, I don't love that one. The notches are too deep, like too wide. I'm gonna notch another one. I'm gonna notch... Do I want to notch that? Or do I want to notch this? I kind of want to notch this one. I actually really like this one. So we'll notch this day sight one. I'm gonna sharpen my pressure flaker up again. I'm gonna try to get it a little flatter. I was having a heck of a time with it wanting to blow out on that one. So we're gonna sharpen her up pretty flat, and we're gonna run through and try to do the same thing. I'm gonna start a little further back in the corner. On the other ones I was doing today, I was starting a little further back in the corner, right back here. And I'll have to be careful on this too, because it's day sight, and having trouble finding where I want to hold this at. It's day sight, so compared to that, I think that was Flint River I was just working. This is a lot softer, and it's going to take a lot less pressure to blow in there. I know on that one I didn't start in the corner. This one I am. I'm hoping that'll match the ones I was doing earlier today a little better. You can see we've lost a lot of that base, which is how the ones I had earlier were. Okay, same thing on this corner. Can I just delete that other one I did? Because, man, we struggled through it. This one's like napping butter. Black butter. Huh. For y'all that don't know, black butter is a type of dacite. And it may be this type of dacite. I don't remember. I just work here. Alright, there we go. That's more like what I was doing earlier. And then, once I get my notches how I like them, I come back and I refine this base. So this one we kind of lost a touch of the corner there. It's not the end of the world. We'll just come back in and we'll just leave it. There's no point in straightening it out. Doesn't hurt anything. It's not a big deal. And I put that same little same little amount of convexity in it like that. Then we just sharpen it up, and this is more reminiscent of what I was making earlier. Again, I just blew that notch out on that other one to start with, and that happens sometimes. Will it hunt fine? Sure. Does it look just like I want it to look? No. Even this one's probably not an inch wide. These corners are supposed to stay on, but with it being really fine grade dacite, it's not going to. Well, it probably would if I was a little more patient. So we're just going to sharpen this up a little bit. It's not bad at all. I'm just coming in here and I'm going like straight down to sharpen that edge. Perfect. That's more like it. And that's really about the size I'm going for. I want them as small as possible. Absolutely tiny. Small is legally allowed. So, this one I kind of just screwed the notches up on. And I could come back and play with it, but it's fine like it is. You shoot it all day. This is more the style I'm going after. We could notch this one too. How much time do we have? 45 minutes. I guess I can just call this video like notching arrowheads and playing around, being stupid. How to not be successful on YouTube 101. Don't know what you're doing. I like to think I know what I'm doing. I just have a hard time being, I don't know. I struggle with being on camera. I'm like embarrassed to sit out here. I'm just sitting here talking to myself. Y'all realize that? Like, I know some of y'all may talk to yourself all the time, but I don't. This one sure is making my life difficult. Probably need to sharpen my pressure flaker again. That Flint River can be like, you see it throwing sparks. A good hard tough flint. I'm trying to get a nice narrow point on that so I can get in there and I can kind of pick and play with whatever I want. And I can use those corners to my advantage to kind of, if I get somewhere that's stalled out, I can kind of there we go. I can kind of use the corner to get purchase on it. Like I said, if you're trying to make, if you're just doing it to do it, which I am just doing it to do it, so I guess to each their own. But if you're just making a hunting point, dude, just side notch it. Don't be doing all this crap. I'm doing it because I can. And it's still whipping my butt. It's not even this that I can, it's because I want to. I want my hunting points to look a certain way. Which, that makes no... What I'm doing makes no logical effect on the point whatsoever. Like, this doesn't make it penetrate any deeper. This doesn't kill deer any deader than if I had just left it a triangle, right? But I can tell you what it does. I tell you what it does do. I like to look at it. So, there you go. And they're mine. So, I'll do it if I want to. I may have pulled that out of frame right then. Dang, I took the corner off, y'all. This one kind of got away from us too. Nothing wrong with it. Still kill something dead as a doornail. Oh, y'all thought we were done? Nah. I got another one. Dude, I bet the skip through rate on this thing is gonna be ridiculous. He made a video, it was just hours of notching. Who does that? Me. You don't have to watch it. He's just mangling. I'm blowing the corners off. It's like he doesn't even care. I don't. You know why I don't? Because I think I could probably make another one in about 10 minutes. There is hunting points. Yeah, have you looked at artifacts? They didn't care either. All that matters is that they're sharp. If an ear's broke off of it or whatever, that's a good one to sling at a hog. Yeah, they're relatively close to the same style. They're all some variation of corner notch. So, I kept my word. can tell you what though, I'm starting to feel it. My arm. I've made a quite a few of these the last couple days, let's just say. I hope y'all can see that. I'm trying my hardest to keep this stuff on camera, but dang, it's making it difficult. There you go. That's more like the ones I was making earlier. Again, I'm not going to sit here and try to make them exactly the same every time. Close is fine. I'll take the best ones, the ones that look the best, feel the best, thinnest, nicest, and I'll put those on my deer hunting arrows. And the ones that don't look the best, don't feel the nicest, I'll put those on some of my arrows that aren't the straightest, don't shoot the best, whatever, and those will be the ones I shoot at hogs and rabbits and stuff. Oh, you can shoot rabbits with a blunt. Yeah, you can. You can also shoot them in the head with a stone point. I mean, yeah, I can shoot them with a blunt, but I make arrowheads. I'm gonna shoot them with an arrowhead. I don't have a, I'm not operating on a fixed income of arrowheads here. I can come up with a couple more if I need them. And that's like the ones that don't meet my size requirement or whatever. They're like smaller than an inch, hog, rabbit. The inch is only for deer, so. Or is it an inch or is it 7/8? I don't know, I need to look that up. There you go. Perfect little baby one. Yeah, good enough. This could be refined a touch. Let's just gotta be careful trying to chase that symmetry, because like I said, it just really does not matter, but it'll cause you to break something that would have been fine. Just anytime I'm adjusting an edge or anything like that, I'm also sharpening. So this is more like the ones I was making earlier. This is how they look, but all in all, we notched 4 on camera and made 2, I think. So these are the 2 we made on camera. These were 2 preforms I had. Something resembling these 2 is what I'm kind of going for. This one's close. This one's just way off. I used to make points like this a lot. It's just bad technique. These notches are way blown out. This will still shoot just fine. It's just stupid. So we're really looking for something in the lines of these 2. This one's a touch small and a little thick and just kind of overall ugly. These 2 are where it's at. Alright, thank y'all for watching. Hopefully that wasn't too boring and y'all could stand through 55 minutes of that. So, thank y'all. Don't forget to subscribe. Alright, now I'm going to let y'all go. Take a look at those real quick. How them look. Alright.